Hello there, Mad Mike here, and welcome back to the channel. And today I wanted to talk about how movie theaters are planning on rebounding after the coronavirus outbreak. Now, the reason why this gets brought up is because a lot of theater chains have been discussing it. There's been some press releases recently, but the other factor is that the Chinese theaters, who obviously were the first ones to originally shut down, have reopened. And they are currently showing films for free to the citizens of China, but they are not newer films. They are older films that are being screened for free, and I have no idea if they're charging for concessions and stuff, but the ticket price itself is free. Um, and now we are getting talk about movie theaters doing something similar here in America. Again, I would imagine the concessions and stuff like that, the food and whatnot, or if anything else in the place is not all going to be free. They do have to function. And concessions and stuff is really where theaters make a majority of their money anyway. So now we have a situation where theaters are, whenever they do open again, are going to are talking about airing various blockbuster films for free. And older films, I don't want to say old films because to me, old films are a little bit different than some other people's. My interpretation of old films is like black and white movies from back in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. Um, but when they talk about older movies, stuff from maybe like 10 years ago, Avengers, any kind of big, they're probably going to show a whole array of films, horror, kids films, stuff like that. Again, I think a lot of it's going to be dependent on the theater and what chain they're a part of and how that goes. I don't think the little mom and pop theaters are going to be doing that. They probably can't afford to. So we're going to have a few different so that's one of several things that are kind of on the table. They've also talked about opening with severely reduced ticket costs and a few other things that are getting thrown out there, kind of just to get people back in the theater. And it's not a bad business choice. Again, especially if you're charging for concessions, because that's really where the theaters do make most of their money. You do have the idea that the whole idea of the theater, a lot of people have also been speculating on the idea that because a lot of movie studios are pushing their latest films onto streaming very early, that's going to catch on and theaters are just going to not open again, which there are probably some theaters that obviously went out of business with this, theaters that were having a hard time and other stuff like that, but it's not ultimately, it's not going to kill theaters. This is not going to kill theaters. Um, and everybody says, "Oh, theaters have been dying." The thing is, if you put movies in theaters that people want to see, in terms of a movie that is good to see in theaters, and for movie people, you know what I mean by that, then people are going to go see it. If it's a big blockbuster summer film, people are going to go see it. Ticket sales have proved this, obviously, current circumstances withstanding. Um, but the point is that you can't really kill the theaters, at least not in the way that they're kind of describing, because they ultimately movie studios are losing money by putting those films directly onto streaming. Now they may still make a profit because of the home release, because of selling of the streaming rights, and because of rental fees. A lot of these films are going out on rental on places like YouTube and Twitch. So I think Twitch. So they're making money via that way, but it's not the same as when you get droves and droves and droves of people going to the cinema. So movie studios do not like this. They're not going to. I don't very much doubt they're going to continue it. Or they're not going to continue it unless they absolutely have to. And cinemas, I think, are going to probably be fine. They're also, I believe, getting a form of government relief, which is going to help them kind of get through this little period, like a lot of other well, I shouldn't say small, but a lot of other businesses are also doing that. So I'm not really too concerned about cinemas, kind of getting phased out of existence, but that is something that's going around right now. The idea of doing the free ticket price thing, it has a bit more strings attached compared to what it is in China versus what it is here. Now, the only reason why I say that is because China, and again, I'm not 100% certain on how the Chinese government works, but I know communism in general, you don't have, privately owned businesses. So those movie theaters are most likely owned by the country. They're owned by the state of China. Or the government of China owns those theaters. That's not, they're not privately owned. It's not owned by, these two random people that bought a building. It's owned by the government, so it's a lot easier for the government to say, okay, we're just going to open them and we're just not going to charge, because it's the government. Whereas in America, it's very, very different in the sense that you have people that privately own something, they have to pay bills to other people. Certain other things have to be done, otherwise the theater itself will go out of business. So it's got a lot more strings attached here, but it could definitely still work. I don't disapprove of the strategy. I'm just saying it's definitely probably a lot easier to do it over there than it is here, because of the way the government works. That's not saying it's better, but I'm just saying in terms of them deciding to do that, that's the government's decision for them to decide to do that, not just the movie theaters. Or the movie theaters are asking permission, one or the other. So there's a lot going on there, but ultimately, I think that can work, and I think that'll probably get a lot of movie people back in the theaters. Because the other thing you have to kind of take into consideration too is not just the COVID-19 outbreak, but the aftermath of it. People are going to be used to a certain extent, kind of staying away from other people, and they're still kind of going to be apprehensive about it because of, even when they start saying, you can go and don't practice social distancing, don't do this, don't do that. When that starts coming out, when they say, okay, it's okay to get back into groups again, it's going to take a little bit of a push for the general public to go do it because they're still going to be freaked out. So doing this by movie theaters is really what they should be doing as a business, and it's a smart decision for the chains that choose to do it, I think. But again, that's kind of just me. I want to know what your opinion is. Do you think the free price of admission is a good idea for movie theaters after the COVID-19 outbreak to kind of build up their numbers again? Do you think that this is going to result in the death of a lot of theaters? Do you think that the movie theater is a dying thing in general, and this is just kind of going to phase it out? Phase it out, or do you kind of think how I am? How some movies are built for movie theaters, and that's always going to be the case. Again, I want to know what you're thinking, so put your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the bell for notifications, hit the like button, subscribe, and remember, I live my life free of compromise. Do you?